what it looks like when the lights go out. With this little orange filter, yellow filter on my phone. Yeah, my tank took a beating. Crashed. I need new lights. Because the ones I have are trash. Those ones are burning out. Not as bright as those. Mind you, this is nighttime, so it looks like in post midnight for like an hour. And then they pretty much all go off. It's a good time to see the ones that fluoresce. Yeah, they're all hiding tonight. Some of them are more impressive under white light, like these blue Zoas. Rastas, they're impressive under both. These green ones are ugly as shit under white light. There's a brown, but under these blues, they look pretty nice. These yellow guys, I don't know if they're scrambled eggs or not. They look decent under both, but they kind of look brown under the white. This is like a toxic green branching Monty, and it's doing awesome for being under the broken light. It's the only one I got down here, and he's growing onto the rock. That whole appendage is onto the rock. Very simple sump. Very cheap setup. As you saw, the black box LEDs. Those will be the next thing I'm replacing. Next, you got your super cheap hang on the side overflow box, feeding into your super cheap standard 20-gallon sump with a few baffles I glued in. Got the cheapest protein skimmer I could find that wasn't like a hang on the side variety. I think it was 90 bucks or 110 or something on Amazon. Just added these media reactors a few months back. They've been working out alright. It's made my sump, or it's made my protein skimmer much better. Using one of these socks on there now just because my other ones are in the wash. These ones don't clog as fast as those 200 micron ones. These are Aquamax, I believe they are. Media reactors, those are bio balls. Got a little bit of a fuge going. A couple bio blocks. It's just a fish trap that I keep down in the fuge. I got some just plain hardware light hanging over here, and I'm just trying to grow some of my own algae underneath it. It's working out. Got all these cardboard boxes cut out just to keep that light concentrated on that one spot so that the algae isn't growing everywhere in the sun. But it's really taking a lot of I got a really bad algae problem. My tank crashed and I had crazy algae up in the display tank. It looked like this in the display tank. And now that I've got it calmed down and down into this area, it's not like that in the display tank anymore. I'm rubbing carbon down here. Make sure that anything that would get through the filter pads over here and bio balls and media in here gets sucked up by the carbon into the return. The return after my lights is what I replace next, so I can get a return DC pump that has controls on it. Because for now I just use this little glass thing here to kind of change the filtration release of the return. The glass cleaner is put over the pump sometimes, slow it down, speed it up. Got these two guys from that WWC live coral auction. I'm not going to try and pronounce the coral names. Mystery Leptocera. And there was like a lemon drop something. Zoa Garden. Hopefully that'll grow in nice. That's a piece of this guy that broke off when I first got it. Rock tumble accident. And he is also forged onto the rocks down here. He's just a little guy that I tucked into a hole. You couldn't even really see him. Now, like 3 months later, he's grown above the rock on the outside. These things grow like crazy in here. All pretty basic corals, though. Just the very few that survived. And the very few cheap ones that I wanted to buy when I was making sure that I was ready to restart it again. The water was ready and whatnot. Yeah, you can go cheap with an aquarium to start with, but you end up having to pay for it. I had a lot of money invested in this tank when it went down. It was my fault. It wasn't any equipment's fault. I'm just not a big tester. I just don't believe in it. Not that I'm necessarily lazy, but I just don't necessarily believe that those are like accurate. They're kind of like a waste of time. And plus, like, why am I doing water changes on clockwork and running in skimmers and media reactors and growing algae down here? Why am I doing all this shit if I'm dosing it? Why am I, it should be pretty stable. And I occasionally test, and when I do, it's stable. Like I tested like probably 2 months ago, and if I was to test right now, I bet it would be very similar to those 2 months ago. This tank's been back up and running for about 6 months. There was nothing in it before when it got stripped down, just the fish made it. Not even my Kenya trees, they had to rebuy new ones of those. Everything died. Don't put bottled water in your tap off. Even during a pandemic, your corals will not like it. One thing, and also during the same rock fall, this Monty over here, this like vertical growing green Monty, snapped off of that peg right there. And now like 3 months later, there's still a little bit that is on that peg, still living. That's gonna grow. And I think if your little corals that go through a big stress, like a break and fall like that, can have a super strong comeback and are growing onto the rock. I think your parameters are pretty straight. The one thing is my anemone. He's not doing well. Not well at all. He used to be a big, robust, rose bubble-tipped anemone. He looks like a dying rock flower neon green anemone. He's been like this for weeks. And the clown's still host. It's a premium black snowflake clown. There's a yellow-eye coal tang. There's a regular Ocellaris clown. And I got these two lemon damsels. Some people call them yellow chromis. I think at the store they're listed as damsels. And I got 3 pajama cardinals. 2 of them are tiny that I just bought. Pre-crash I had 3. During the crash one of them jumped out and the other died. And I know that they like to live in groups, so I felt bad and bought 2 more when I was at the store the other day. They hang out down here and I can't see them with the lights out. There's one. Yeah, they're both about that size, tiny. It's compared to the old guy. The old guy's a big one. And then I got a ruby red dragonet, but you won't be able to see him. He's tucked in for the night. Even though you'd think this is like prime hunting time for him, copepods galore in here. That's one thing that did not die off during the crash, is copepods. Just look at a piece of rock for a second and you'll see, oh, just look at it, like in the bottom left corner, right there next to the starfish. This fuge is teeming with life. Look at that copepod up there. So, yeah, my boy's got food. Lush colonies. Now, I've heard the more variety of algae you can have growing down in your sump, the better. Like if you can grow Kato, if you can grow green hair, if you can grow red bubble, if you can grow whatever, that dragon's beard or whatever, if you can grow all that stuff down there, it's better because it'll keep it more biodiversity and it'll keep it out of your display tank. And that's the theory I'm working on at this point, so if someone's got a better one, which I'm sure there are, but if someone has convincing evidence, feel more than welcome to share it. But yeah, see all these pods? Big pods. Big pod population in here. I think those are pods. I hope they are. They're big ones, right? But yeah, you can't lift up a rock in the tank without a little pebble. You can't lift up without having like 10 of these little microscopic things scurrying out from underneath it, so. I went on vacation for 2 weeks and I left an auto feeder with just flake food, dropping the tiniest little bit in there every day. And I wasn't worried at all because I knew the fish would be able to survive just off the copepods. They would all start eating those before they died. I try to keep the white starfish out of my display. Whenever I see them, I take them out and kill them. I don't care if they stay down here, and I know if they're down here, they're going to make it into the display. And I used to have a very big problem with them. I had to go in and I probably removed like 150 of them by hand. In my last tank before the crash, I think they were the culprits of a huge eating of my polyps. I lost this rock here. This enormous rock on the end was covered from top to bottom in green star polyps. Something ate it all. The top of this rock was covered in Bam Bam zoas. Just all those orange Bam Bams across this whole rock where all the different zoas are now. It ate all those too, and a bunch of my other zoas. And all I could see when I started my tank up again was that I had a huge population of those white starfish. And then when I started putting these zoas in, I kept coming in here and seeing those white starfish on top of healthy zoas. So they all had to come out. But I let them live in the sump because they do provide, again, biodiversity. They're not harmful. They do eat detritus and stuff, and they're going to eat. I mean, I don't want the algae to get out of control down here like there is. I have to trim it, and they do eat some of it. Again, I get that they lay eggs and that their eggs and tiny little babies will get into the display and grow. But, you know, most people say that they're not a problem as far as eating things in their tank. I don't know why they became one in mine, or even if they were the problem. I'm hoping they are. Oh, look at that skeleton over that button coral. Oh man, it's so sad when you see all those skeletons of huge coral colonies. And again, it leaves their circle of life, I suppose. And I don't care who you are, I've been in this hobby now for like 4 years. And I know there's people that have been in it for 40, but I think I have enough experience now to say that everybody loses corals. No matter how much money you have invested in your tank, and how much time and knowledge you have, how often you test, how often you change your water. All those things might reduce the number of corals you lose, but everybody loses some corals at some point. There's some corals back there. Oh. Oof. Those were sent to me. It was one of the first corals I ever bought. It was in a package of the first 2 corals I ever bought. Saltwaterfish.com. It was like one of those pay $5 more for a mystery coral. And they sent me a torch and these sun corals. Now I have no idea. I didn't even have lights on my tank yet. I just had the little like LED strips that came with it. So I had no idea what I was doing. No less what I should be doing with a non-photosynthetic coral. Another guy on eBay sold me a rock with a bunch of Aiptasia on it. It was just all Aiptasia. There's like a whole colony of like 100 Aiptasia as a piece of coral. And I didn't know. Put it in my tank. Back in the day when I first got this, and I was reading how important copepods were and shit, I used to buy these like 64-ounce bottles full of copepods, and I'd pour like 5 of them in here at a time. This was like 4 years ago, but I'm sure that has something to do with the healthy population that's still in there. But that was probably so bad for my tank that I would take like 2 gallons of this like shitty water that's been floating around in the U.S. mail for 3 days full of copepods and just dump it right into my tank. Because it looks like there's copepods in it. I mean, it was a lot cheaper than buying the stuff with this, name brand stickers on it. And I bet you I could do that at this point with the amount of copepods I have. I figure I could start bottling these guys up. When I do water changes, just like take a couple bottles of water right straight from the fuse here, sell them. $10. You'll get some of these fat boys in there. Definitely breeding for you. Anyone know what those things are? Are they like a starfish of some kind, or like some kind of sponge or algae? Because they suddenly turned up in my filter and in the refuge. And here's one inside this media reactor. He's been there for days. Which is why I'm thinking it's like a sponge, like a filter feeder kind of thing. 'Cause it's not moving. But yeah, this hobby it's fun, but it can be very frustrating, and it does cost a lot of money. But if you're into fish, this is like the pinnacle of keeping fish, is to keep a saltwater reef tank. And once you get all the equipment, it's not as much work as people will tell you that it is. You can make it a lot of work, and you can make it not a lot of work. And you can be successful doing either, or you can fail doing either. You just got to do a lot of research, and a lot of this is trial and error, again, no matter what people tell you. 4 years or 40 years, there's trial and error involved in this. My local fish guy store is saying I've kept puffers in this tank and they were fine. Other people put a puffer in their tank and the next day every single fucking polyp they had is gone. Or the heads of all their torches and frog spawns are ripped. Not mine, my guy was straight, he never even looked at a coral for food. I've seen people with clown triggers in reef tanks. If you get the clown trigger small enough, the reef tank big enough, but I'm certain at some point that clown trigger is going to eat something in your tank. It might just not destroy your reef. There's going to be some trial and error. And maybe that wasn't the first clown trigger you put in there. Maybe you had to buy 3 of them before you got a specimen that wasn't going to rip into all your corals. Because like fish, all animals in the animal kingdom, yes, we share very similar traits, like all humans, tend to sleep at night, but, we don't all do it the exact same way. So you can get variety like that in almost any animal. And fish are no different. You can put a puffer in your tank that'll rip every polyp out of it overnight. You can put a puffer in your tank that will never even look at a piece of coral as a food source. I had a puffer that what he would do is when I would put reefroids in there, the only time he would bump into the polyps that had closed up that had reefroids in them, he would bump into them to make them open, and then he would suck the water up real quick. That was the only thing he ever did to get food from a coral. Never harmed the actual coral. And I leave this light on in my sump. I think it only shuts off for 4 hours at night. Because I'm trying to make it outwork those 2 huge 165 watt LED panels that are on for 10 hours a day. And to do so, I gotta leave it on longer. It's got a full spectrum bulb in it, which I think is better than just using a regular UVA, UVB. And it grows some algae. I don't know how it would do with actual Chaeto. I've tried to grow Chaeto down here before with shittier lights with no success. That's what this fish trap was actually in here for. It's a great little contraption actually if you ever want to get one. Speaking of fish eating your stuff, I had a filefish up in this tank. Back to the story about the guy that sold me all those Aiptasias. Once those Aiptasia took over my tank about 6 months later, and I had 1,000 of them. And then when I bought a bunch of Aiptasia X, Red Sea Aiptasia X, and tried to kill them, they turned into 10,000. So I went out and I got 2 filefish. I put them both in my 55 gallon. And I don't think I did. At that time I had a 20 gallon and a 55 gallon and both had Aiptasia in it. So I split them up, put one in the 20, one in the 55. The 20 gallon didn't have any corals. It was just like a holding tank. Emergencies, quarantine situations. That guy did good. He ate all the Aiptasia in that tank. He eventually died when the Aiptasia went away because he wouldn't eat other food. The guy in my main display, he did good as well. Got rid of most of the Aiptasia after a certain amount of time, and when he did so, he started attacking other corals. So I had to get him out. And at that point, this tank was a huge, huge mixed reef, huge corals everywhere. And I wasn't going to be able to chase them around with a net. I couldn't catch them with anything. My hand and had a cup, whatever. Couldn't catch them days I was trying. So I noticed before that at my fish store that they had this fish trap contraption. So I was like, gosh, I'll give it a shot, see what happens. It's got all these holes in the side, so so that it sinks, and then it's got a little thing on the top so that you can raise or lower however you want it in the tank. And then it's got this sliding door that has a string on it, and you pull the string up and you hold the door open, toss some food in, and ideally the fish swims in, and you drop the string and the door comes down like a guillotine. It traps the fish in there. And then it's got holes, so you just pick it up, the water drains out, and you do what you need to do with the fish out of the aquarium. I'm like, this is a last resort. I don't think this is going to work, though. There's no way this guy's going to swim into a trap. He's been running from me for days. I've tried everything. There's no way he's just going to swim into a trap. Not 30 seconds after I put in it. He's the first fish to even go near it. Goes right into it. Like I said, they weren't eating food, so I did put food in there. No one else even looked at it, and he wasn't even eating that kind of food ever, so he wasn't in there for it. 30 seconds I took him. He swam right in there. I dropped it. Perfect. So yeah, those things work. But yeah, and it's a dual purpose thing. People were returning them to the store, which I felt bad. It was only like $30, but $30 is 30. I think it was more, like 50. But I don't, that's shady. I think to like buy something and then know that you're only need to use it once and then return it. So I kept mine because I saw it as a multi-purpose thing, and now I kept it as kind of a Kato tosser. I'd put a little power head in there, close the trap door, and it would have just keep the Kato from going everywhere inside the sump. But yeah, I never had a strong enough light. The Kato would always die. One time I think it was a BRS video I saw, and Ryan or Randy was like, you don't need a light on your Kato. Like, I haven't lit this in months. It's all about flow, blah blah blah. So I was like, oh, I don't need to worry about the lighting down here. Never could keep any light. Maybe it was because he had a much larger colony of it, but who knows. When I first installed this media reactor with the carbon in it, I had no idea that you had to trap the carbon in tightly so that it wouldn't turn over. So I just did that recently, so it's probably only really been working for like a week or so. I've had it for a couple months. Automatic top off is a must. As far as automation on your tank, lights and an automatic top off I think are musts in a reef tank. And my light query at this point is other lights are so much more expensive than these cheap black box LEDs, and essentially they do the same thing. Yes, they do look much nicer, more expensive lights, but they're 3 to 4 times the price. And I don't think they grow coral any faster. I don't think that they do really much of anything much better. And in fact, some of them don't have like the sunrise, sunset, all of the different Wi-Fi hookups, apps on the phone. Some of the big boys don't have that. Kessel talking about you. I don't want to spend $500,000 to get 2 panels and then not have it do like the sun up, sun down that mine, $180 each panels do right now. It's $165 for both of them. I think it was $200 with the controller thing for them over here. It was like an extra $30, and then these were like 80 each. D-Sun Y on Amazon. And now they're showing their age. They're 4 years old. A lot of the LEDs are burning out. Like these spotlight blues on this one are burning out. There's a bunch of white ones in the daytime on this one that are burning out. So it's time to replace them. But I don't want to give up like functionality. So I was like, maybe get Radions. Still very expensive. But they do have controllers, sun up, sunrise type thing. Truthfully, I need 3. This is a 4-foot tank. Mixed reef. There's going to be some SPS in here, and they suggest not 2 but 3 for a tank of those dimensions. Again, this is a standard 55-gallon tank and was the cheapest tank I could find when I started this. Cheapest larger tank that I could find. 40 gallons or larger. So, and after I got a DC pump and maybe a skimmer, the next thing I want is a new tank. And I wouldn't do one like this. I really like the Peninsula style, but I think cube tanks offer a very similar type aesthetic to a Peninsula tank. And if you have a cube, they're not this long, if they're not larger than like 90 gallons, which is what I'm looking at, they're not this long, so you wouldn't need 3 of them, which is why I'm like, well, because if I need 3, then I have to seriously look at that, the AIs, Aquata Luminotics or whatever, because they're like only double the price of these instead of triple. So I could get like 3 of them and the mounting kit for like $800 instead of getting like 2 Radeon XR15s and the mounting kits for like $1,400 or so. That's the decision to make. But I don't think I would have this footprint of a tank forever. And if I'm going to spend that kind of money on lights, I'm going to have them for a long time. So in 2 years from now, let's say I pony up and get a 90-gallon cube tank, I would only need 2 panels. And then I wouldn't really need 3 on this. That's just what would be suggested, and that's really for an SPS dominated tank. Mixed reef, you can put the SPS on top and more, where you get better focused of lights and do it that way. But I don't know. The Aqua Illumination ones are very similar functionality wise to the black boxes. They do it all. And honestly, I don't know that there's that big of a difference. Like, Kessels do have like a cool shimmer to them, but if you put a wave maker at the top of your tank and get the right amount of speed on it underneath the right LEDs, you'll also get a very cool shimmer effect. So I don't know, is it worth the kind of money that they're asking for that? And then Kessels, they don't do the sun up, sun down. They don't come with Wi-Fi. They don't. Everything's extra. It's like, come on. And then it's like, oh, you want a Neptune Apex? You want to get... I'd love to have all my things really automated. I'd love... Like I said, I don't do testing. Partly because I'm fucking lazy. If I had a test kit or automatic testers here, I'd do it. Automatic testers and automatic dosing, like, why not? I just started dosing my tank when my anemone, when I noticed him having problems 2 or 3 weeks ago. I started dosing Red Sea calcium and then the Red Sea 4-part like trace colors thing. Prior to that, I had no regular dosing schedule because I don't have a lot of hard corals in here, and I didn't think it was a big deal. But I noticed when I did start dosing that he did start making a small comeback. He was balled up tight 24/7 for a long time. And then when I started dosing a lot of the chemicals, or the Red Sea, he came out little by little. And then he started moving all over the tank. He lived here from the day I got him to like a week and a half ago. The day I got him was 6 months ago. 4 months ago, it was around Christmas. He was there the entire time. Night 1, he was like over here, but by the morning he was right there. Never moved again. But then he went into his little ball for weeks, and then I did the dosing, and he moved everywhere. He was all over the tank over the next week. And now just the day before yesterday, he's settled here. And this is the longest he's settled anywhere other than here. And I don't know what this would mean, because right now it's like, as bad as you might think he looks, this is the best he looks. So I don't know if that's saying that he's getting too much light during the day. Too much, not enough flow, too much, I don't know. I don't have a lot of flow in this tank. I have the power to have a lot of flow in this tank, I just don't turn my pumps up that high. It doesn't seem to be necessary. So I don't know if something like that might be bothering him. I did squirt Reefroids into him a couple times when he was locked up because I wanted him to eat. I knew he wasn't getting any sun or anything. So I don't know if that bothered him. There was a huge bristleworm in here that would always be around his foot at night, and I couldn't get the bristleworm out of there because it's fucking a Jedi ninja. So and I know that bristleworms can be harmful to an enemy, so maybe that's what was fucking him up, and that's why he went on the move. That's why he was balled up forever. I don't know. But I'm not a praying man, but if you are, say one for my enemy. My clowns would love you for it. Especially my ORA premium black snowflake that I paid $100 for. That definitely doesn't seem to be, finger quotes, premium. Too white. The ones that the pictures were like black with white spots. This dude's like pretty white, his whole body. And if you look closely, it's got some faint black marks on him. And I thought when he was little, I thought as he grew up, as he got bigger, that they would come in stronger, but they stayed the same. He's got just a couple faint white marks on his body. I might like him. He's an exotic looking clownfish, but the next tank I just want to do like an all black one and an all white one. Maybe I'll turn my little 20-gallon holding tank. I'll put a big anemone in there. When I get new lights, I'll throw these old lights on here. Put a big anemone in there and a couple clowns. Fighting lover's quarrel here. He sort of hosts these ones, the littler guy. He'll host some of the frog spawn over here. I'd like to maybe get a yellow tang. I know there's not suggested for tanks this size, especially with other tangs in them. I really like yellow tangs. When I got those yellow damsels, it was to have a fish that looked like a yellow tang. For the prayers that were saying a prayer for my enemy, can you say a prayer for my girl Lois, 13-year-old miniature pincher. She's getting old, guys. It scares me when bad stuff happens. A couple months ago, she fell out of bed and she was limping for days. I didn't want to take her to the vet because I was scared. they're gonna tell me it was something bad, something I couldn't afford to fix. But she recovered. She's a strong little lady. My best friend. She's taught me everything I know about love and loyalty. Completely redefined who I am as a man. She's never said a word to me. And, you know, all that love aside, she can be a cock block too. She attracts women, she brings them in, oh, look at your cute little dog. And then she tries to bite him. More so years ago than she does now, but the energy is the same. She's definitely territorial with me. Especially with other women. Dude, she doesn't really care. See her? Look at. Like, what'd you just say about other women? Is there another woman? Tell me. Tell me right now. Oh, I can't deal with this. I just read about a Chihuahua. He's the oldest living dog in the world right now. He's 21 years old and he lives in Florida, and his name is Toby Keith. My girl's name is Lois Friendly. She's 13 years old, and she's going to outlive Toby Keith. Fingers crossed. Still in very good health. Sometimes I question her sight in the dark. Sometimes I question her hearing. But she's fit as a fiddle. 0 body fat on her, which is good for a min-pin of her age. She gets lots of exercise. She loves to eat. She's pretty active as far as, mentally. Like, she does sleep a lot more than she used to, but she still stays active mentally. She posts herself up right here and watches the fish swim over here all day long. I forgot what I was even talking about with the tank. Maybe automation that I wanted in Apex, but I just can't see investing the money until that technology gets better. If I'm down there having to like calibrate it and refill it with like formulas and shit, then I might as well just test manually. And I know I'm gonna have to be fucking testing manually anyways, often, to double check that the thing is right and that I've calibrated it properly and that there's the right amount of refills. So until that gets better or the price comes down, I don't think it's something I can invest in. I still want a Neptune. I'd love to have some wave makers that I could control at different speeds throughout the day, like have them ramp up with my lights and ramp down at night. Or whatever, whatever's better for corals. It's vice versa about the ramping, but I wouldn't know because I have cheap wave makers. Again, the cheapest ones I could find on Amazon for a mixed reef of this size. The big gyro one at this end, I think this is called like a JB40. And again, if you want to get like the Radian ones, they're 4 times as much money as these. I paid $100 for this guy. Maybe even like 75. And I paid 50 for this. Let's just take a silent cruise through the reef. Questions or comments are welcome. Keep it nice. Respect each other. Sorry about this fucking flare in the background. Flare, glare. dimmer this end of the tank is. And on the other side here, here's my desk. Computer monitors. This side's not as good as the other side because I do spend more time on the couch than I do at my desk. Sorry to say. The reason why I fucking failed out of law school. Or at least one of the many. The magnifying glass clear. You can see most corals from either side, but there's a lot on this rock that are only on the other side, and that's because I can only see that rock from the couch. And it's the end of the tank with the working blues. What do you think that is underneath that? It's in glare. That's the 60-gallon tank there, over there. Turtle topper on it. One Wachita map turtle living in there. One male Wachita map turtle. Males are much smaller than females. And one very large black convoke cichlid. So, just two in there. Always try and make it a planet. I always buy plants and try and build them up, but the fucking turtle just does not. Whether he eats them, rips them up, he just ain't having it. I love the turtle too much to get rid of it. Turtle's probably one of the coolest animals to have as a pet. Outside of the dog. Or even maybe cats. I'm not a cat person, but you know, those things obviously are a little more have a little more personality. But turtles have a personality. It's cool that they live in water and land. When I was younger, I used to have turtles 15 years ago, but I had a 20-gallon tank. It was designed for turtles, so like one of the ends was cut out so you could put a hang on the back filter right there. So it was really only like 8 or 10 gallons of water that the turtle had to swim in. Because if you filled it up any higher, it would go up the side of the tank. So about like 5 years back, I was on Amazon and I saw this turtle topper. It was like, no longer do you have to buy a turtle tank, or no longer do you have to fill your tank halfway and buy one of those rising and sinking basking pads. Introducing the turtle topper. And I was like, oh my god, I'm getting a turtle again. And I did. And he never goes in it. Never uses it. I got a log at the other end under those lights. That's what he uses to bask. Same exact lighting setup, same distance, same bulbs, same temperature, everything. The only thing that's different is the surroundings and the gradient of the bottom. But this thing is designed for turtles. The other one is as well, but you know, it's got just a design that a turtle can use its claws easily to climb up the ladder. And I even put food up there all the time, and the food will slowly disappear, but he never sits up there to bask. Goes and grabs the food and jumps back in the water. Because for those that don't know, turtles can't eat out of water and can't poop out of water. They do all that in water. And they also can't regulate their body temperature in water. So to get out of water to do that. They're a fascinating pet, fascinating animal. They've been on Earth since the very beginning, dinosaurs, you know. cool example of Mother Nature, our turtles. And I always kind of like, it's kind of my spirit animal, something that has a shell that it can, you know, a self-containing shell, always at the ready, that when things get tough I can just tuck into. That's my dream and personality. And I hate that these guys keep knocking that mushroom down. Wish I would have known more about aquascaping than I did when I set this up. Like, I didn't have the tools to like drill holes in a rock. Like that rock would be awesome if it had like 4 or 5 holes drilled into it. It's super big, it's super heavy. And these other ones are pretty big. I tried to go with like the hanging garden type scape. Try to keep as few things on the bottom as possible to help the flow of the filter. A very shallow sand bed. My next tank, I would never get this grade of sand again. Blows all over the place no matter what. It's all over the rocks all the time. Which is good and bad. And sometimes it's good because it'll block the algae from getting light and it'll slowly kill the algae. But other times it'll slowly grow algae because it's the live sand and it has tons of shit in it. And now it's finding its way into every fucking nook and cranny in those rocks. But yeah, now I've seen Ryan on BRS TV do those scapes, and you know, he has hammers and chisels and clays and glues, you know, a bunch of different rocks. He's got like a $300-400 set in front of him. I just didn't have that kind of those kind of resources. And this is just, you know, the white dry rock. Again, cheapest kind of rock I could find on Amazon. And it came in these shapes. I have a bunch more in this tank, and obviously you saw some down in the sump as well. But yeah, I try to keep everything up high, for now at least. Helps with the filtration, helps with the lighting. The only thing in the sand is the mushroom that guy always throws off the rocks, and those Kenya trees. I got some green star polyps. You can't see because it's too dark. They're almost in the sand. They'll probably eventually grow down into the sand. They seem to be growing down more than they're growing up, which is unfortunate because I planted them that low hoping that they would go up. Because when this was covered before, I put it in the middle and it grew up. And it didn't really cover the down. So I figured this time I would start further down and let it grow up. But it seems that it's growing down into the flow pattern rather than growing up to where the light is. So that's something to think about if you're a novice like myself and you're thinking about where to put a polyp or where to put a coral that you know is going to grow fast. It might grow with the flow rather than to the light. So keep that in mind. It's doing both. It's just growing faster with the flow. Again, I'll show you can see it better on this side where this branching mani is connected into this rock. I got all that right there. You see underneath. It's growing right there. Onto the top of that rock. Like there over. Is on the rock. And it's also on this other, touching this piece. And they're two different rocks, which kind of sucks because now they're going to be joined together by this, and I hope that I can keep it in there long enough that they all just become one big rock held together by a huge colony of branching mani. Did you hear that? Lois came in here. Maybe I'm gonna do this every night, keep a video journal. Tell me if you're still watching this, salute to you, brother. But tell me what you think about this idea. A YouTube channel that is outsourcing how to live, outsourcing their life, crowdfunding and crowdsourcing their life. I forget the actual word for it, but imagine a channel where the host, like myself, comes on, tells you the circumstance of his life, asks you to vote in a poll, and depending on what wins the poll is what he does. I do. Wouldn't a channel like that be really popular? Like an example would be like, well, think about it. A bad one would be when Lois hurt her leg. Imagine if we did have to go to the vet, and the vet said it's going to cost $2,500 to repair the leg, and I think, I don't know that she's going to live without pain. She might be in pain for the rest of her life, even if we do surgically repair it. Or we can put her down where she won't be in pain anymore, and it only costs you $100. So I'd say, Doc, I gotta sleep on that for a couple of nights, and I would come on YouTube and I would say, here's the circumstance, my dog's gonna be $2,500, and it can't, no guarantees, or we can, guarantee that she'll never feel that pain and take her down now. And then have a poll. Wouldn't that be an awesome channel to subscribe to? And have me just respond to the poll winner? And then even more things like, even more personal, it's kind of, maybe not more personal, but in a different area of your life, like, met hot girl in elevator. Should I ask for number? Hot girl in my building, flirting with me. Do you think she's single? Should I ask her to go out? Wouldn't that be, and then I do, based on whatever the majority votes, I do exactly that. We'll have an other where people can write in their own comments if they don't like my own. And the contract I have with my subscribers is that I will do what the majority of you say to do, regardless of how I might personally feel about it. It's a good idea, right? Maybe even advertise the channel as like a study of democracy, a macro study of democracy, and how it works in social situations or social settings or something along those lines. Would you not sign up to watch something like that? And would you not want to have your voice heard? Like, should I quit smoking? Yes, no, other. I'm sure everyone would say yes, and then I would say, I need you all to support me. And now suddenly this channel would become also a kind of something you're interested in on a personal level. If this guy's going to be able to get through this, arduous task of quitting smoking. And how can I maybe help him? You know, whatever it is, if it's words of encouragement or tips, you know, from their own experience in that situation. There's the two pajama cardinals again. They haven't, the third one, the bigger guy, did come down here once and sort of seemed to recognize that they were all the same, but they don't hang out as of yet. I think they eventually will. All three of them. The two little guys hang out down here. And the big guy, he's always hung out down here. I'm gonna put some pipefish in here. I really like them. And obviously I have the pods to do it. I used to have a couple of pipefish. They died during the tank crash. One of the first to go. They're hard. One jumped out of the tank. Has anyone ever heard of a garden eel? I saw one today. Look awesome. Here's Lois. This is what she does when I'm in here. She gets jealous. Joey belly. You can't even see her, she's so dark. You can probably hear her though, right? Those nails, she's tap dancing. When she wants something, that's what she does. She's probably hungry. She has to go outside. But she's spoiled because we have a balcony and I have a little patch out there that she goes in the bathroom. It's not like she has to hold the going to the bathroom. She can just go out there. She wants to walk. She's selfish. But she's 13 and I'm trying to make the last years of her life as enjoyable as possible. I don't restrict what she can eat and, you know, I'm not doing any of that. I just don't want her to feel pain, you know. I just want her. She's gonna have such an abbreviated life compared to mine, and this is gonna be the end of it. We're entering the beginning of the end. No matter what happens, this is that. So every minute from here on out, I want it to be enjoyable for her. It's a couple extra walks at night, so be it. I live in a high-rise building. It's a pain in the ass to take the dog out all the time, going down the elevator, outside, across the street. It's not like, you know, I can just toss her into the backyard. Or just walk out my front door and go around the block. It's kind of a big deal, but I take her for 2 walks every day, one in the morning, one at night. But if keeping her happy means I have to take her for 1 or 2 more in the afternoon, then so be it. She's the best girl I've ever known. She deserves it. She's gonna be a bully. She definitely tries to bully me, which is what those tap dances are about. Alright, well, I'm gonna sign off. This is gonna be a really long video. It's gonna take forever to upload. Feel free to comment on anything you heard about in this video.